Welcome back.
Welcome back. What is new?
Summer's coming to a close.
No.
It is becoming fallish, although I think we're going to get 90-degree temperatures next week. But right now...
Oh, really? That's projections?
For 2 days. 3 days. 2 days.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but fall things are happening.
Yeah, leaves are falling like crazy already.
Football.
Oh, yeah, that game.
Football is starting up again. Mm-hmm. So school is starting up again. Fall things are starting up again. Yeah. So, when we've said before, we deal in seasons.
Yeah.
So, a new start coming up for us again.
Which is funny because we're going to talk a little bit about changes today.
We are. Yeah.
And cancer brings about so many changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of throws you into this, just series of events, right?
But I think people from the outside would say it's one change.
Yeah, and I think it's sometimes forgotten how many things it does change and continues to change, right? It's not just, when you start out, you find out you have cancer, and that is horrible and hard, and that's a big thing. Some people decide to share it. Some people don't even share it, right? But regardless, it changes how your next day is going to be, right? It changes, even if you're walking into work, all of those thoughts in your head.
Changes your world.
Right?
Wow.
It just really...
in my life, little changes matter. Mm-hmm. Little changes upset me sometimes.
Yeah.
Anxiety with that. It's just, I'm bad with that, and I know that, and I'm getting better, I think, at embracing it and
embracing change in general.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just that it is okay, and that not all change is good, but to give change a try is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because you can always go back, and not always, but in my world that I live in, that I've tried to be better with change.
Well, part of the way I think about change is like it. Oh boy.
That wasn't me.
We can take that out. So part of what I think about with change is that it is inevitable, right? Mm-hmm. So you can either be on kind of the leading end of it, or you can be the one where the changes are happening to you. So both are hard, and so that's where sometimes when I'm fearful of changes, but I think about that. I think about, well, I don't want to be the one watching everybody else change or having the changes happen and not having any say in them. Mm-hmm. Cancer feels like that, right? You feel like you don't have any say in the changes.
Yeah.
So I think it's...
But with any change, whether it's small or as big as it can get, change with cancer, it brings on things like anxiety, even when you're handling it well.
Oh, for sure.
If you handle it bad, it can go beyond anxiety, and we start talking about things like depression and affecting your lifestyle in a negative way. And if you've been listening to this podcast, we've talked a lot about how important the brain is and how it's in charge of your immune system and how it controls the body. Well, this very diagnosis itself is working against that from day one.
Yeah.
Day one, this battle of big change, and that doesn't do you good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's also all that fear of, what changes might be coming, right? The fear
of the unknown.
Of the unknown,
yeah.
Yes.
We already know the possibilities of what a metastatic cancer diagnosis can be. We don't live in the dark. And to confront that possibility is...
Right. But we also, as humans, too, we're logical, yet we're not, right? Yes. Like, we make all these deals with ourselves. Like, if this is okay, then... Or if this comes back clear, then this will be okay. Or if it's only this, then this will be, And a lot of that is like, it's not even true. Mm-mm. There's no truth to it, right? Mm-mm. It's kind of like when there's a near miss, like, of an accident or something, you think, oh, well, if I do this from now on, then I will avoid. Sometimes there's really no avoidance, but also the deal making along the way isn't...
It's to some extent how it's kept us alive, though, by learning by our past experiences and not repeating some of those big ones on the near misses and stuff like that. It's how we're wired.
It is. But there can be positives to changing also, right?
No doubt.
To the changes.
I mean, we all have a million little changes in our lives, even with or without cancer. You know, even forget the big ones. The little ones we handle well or not, but the changes still happen.
Yeah. And change can also be positive, right? So, and I do feel like, you know, like there's that whole, like, cancer was a gift or blah, blah, blah. No, none of that. But good does come from bad, you know? And so I try to look at some things that have happened because of cancer as opportunities, right? I don't know if I know I wouldn't be the same person, but, you know, would the growth, you know, what would that look like? And do
you have any idea when you started recognizing that, what you just said? Like when in this process that good can come from this? Was that immediate for you, or?
I don't know if it was immediate, but I think I've always recognized that, you know, because of the cancer and the choices we made, I had way more time at home with our kids when they were little. Then that's not what probably would have happened when, you know. I was able to recognize things. I didn't take things for granted. And that was something that also was a huge struggle for me in my 20s and 30s, because I had, you know, the people in my age group were talking about their lives as if it was a given that certain things were going to happen, right? So we're going to this, we're going to get married, we're going to have kids, we're going to, and, you know, I recognize even with a million other things, infertility, lots of different things, that's a really big assumption when you're throwing those things out or getting upset, you know, when things don't quite go your way. So I think I think it's been a process over the years, but I think I've leaned into it more the older I've gotten, right? To just kind of say, these changes have happened, and this is what I've learned and who I want to be. And I don't know who that person would have been without cancer. I have no idea. But it doesn't matter, right? It was an opportunity to really think about what mattered to me, what changes I wanted to make, what changes were good for our family, all of those things.
You've made some pretty big changes from the beginning of cancer to now. You've changed multiple times.
Yeah.
Do you think, well, obviously all of them wouldn't have happened because you wouldn't have had cancer, but do you think you're more open to change because of cancer?
Absolutely.
Like, forget the change that you're making. In general.
I think so. I think I'm more willing to be scared. How's that? I think I realize, like, I've never been more scared than I was when I found out about the metastatic disease. So when I think about making changes, even from a career standpoint or things like that are pretty big, it still is not my health, you know? And so
everything else is minor compared to that.
It kind of is. Yeah. Even though it's, you know, that's how we define people by what they do and all of that kind of stuff. And I try. It's funny because I was thinking about this when we were out with friends the other night, and a bunch of them are retired, and that's awesome. But I'm like, it is just so in our, like, conversation to be talking about, like, work or, like, situations where, like, now it's like, what are you doing for fun? Or who are you as a person, you know? And that's where, I mean, I do appreciate the opportunity, I guess, to look at things that way, you know? So I don't know. I mean, I feel like change for me it hasn't always been easy by any means. And it is more about just being okay with being uncomfortable and recognizing that that's part of the process, right? Like it doesn't feel good to be in the midst of change, but it also doesn't feel good to never change, if that, so
just in general, when we think about changes, if you never change, you don't know what else.
Yeah.
And to think about that, to really, and I think at our age, that comes up more than anybody in their 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
For sure, just because of what we've been, and forget cancer, it just change.
No, with time comes...
You do think of what else, or where could I, what could I have? And those questions, I think, spurn on change a little bit more.
I think the other thing I would say with that is that I do feel like a lot of people feel very stuck. Like, I couldn't do this because...
Some people are stuck.
Yeah, but like, when your back's against the wall, sometimes you make decisions, and those are the best ones for you. So I think there's a difference between actually being stuck and feeling stuck, right?
Okay.
So I think,
for example,
I'm just saying that I think sometimes when people say, I can never do that, I have this, this, and this, it's like, okay, then how do you work towards eliminating or making this better so that you could, rather than just, no, this is, my burden to bear, or my, responsibility or whatever.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of those big changes that happen that some people might not even know about if they're listening to this and don't necessarily have metastatic cancer, but hopped on this. What are some of those big changes early on that we're talking about?
Well, I think immediately you're considering what your day-to-day is going to look like, right? Because it's like, what is your treatment situation? Which also then, what is your career or work going to look like? Who's going to take care of your kids on a day-to-day basis? Like, how are you going to get through your day, right? I think it's... treatment options, it's everything. How it's the people around you and what kind of support,
Are you going to change your diet?
Are you going to change your diet?
Are you fitness level?
Are you, again, I talked a little bit, are you going to tell anybody? And if you're not going to tell anybody, then are you willing to, like, just, not have that level of support?
And a lot of these changes aren't necessary, but they're necessary. If you go back to what was successful for you, I feel like, and I don't know if you do, they were necessary.
Well, I think so. One of the things that I have been thinking about in preparation for this is like being able to make changes like that was able to. It allowed me to not be as fearful, right? To be able to get back some control in different ways, to just be in a place where I was like, okay, this is what feels right to me, and so it just really helped my mental status.
So early on, I think you would agree that the changes you made actually alleviated some of the anxiety.
Oh, for sure.
They work opposite of what we've been talking about, how big change can cause. Getting the diagnosis, anxiety-ridden, it's going to cause because of the fear of the unknown. But the changes you made with those things right there actually backed off the anxiety. It's similar to my big change in retiring from coaching football. That was a anti-anxiety thing. Yeah, exactly, for that. Yes. But others, down the line, when we talk about this stuff, it can go the opposite way. The big things that I don't know, those things. So going through treatment, a lot of those kind of things, we can get back to that. But you get through treatment, and there's still possible changes.
Oh, there's still definite changes. I feel
Well,
like
not definite, but some of them are.
I mean,
definite.
part of it
right.
is, I remember kind of finishing treatment and there being kind of, it felt to me, and this could be just all me thinking, that people were expecting maybe me to return to my old life in the same way. And I was like, I am not the same person. Like, that is not me anymore. So, and also I was like, that's kind of somewhere in there. And again, I know this isn't exact, but that's what got me there. Like that, I don't want to jump back in to the same old thing and pretend that my life wasn't just completely.
In a
turned
lot of
upside
these
down
things, I
by
think
cancer.
you're alluding to even like mentally.
Yeah.
Mentally where you are, who you are, not anything physically outward. You're talking about going back to. You're talking about how you think about things
Yeah.
and how you perceive things
Yeah.
and how you react to
Exactly.
things. That okay.
Yeah. And how.
Just making sure.
Yeah. What. Yes. Exactly. All of those things.
Yeah.
Versus like, I felt like.
But none of those things are visible.
Yeah. No, I felt like life was happening to me, and then I felt like life was happening, like I was a part of what was going on in my life after all of that.
Yeah.
So it's it's a big change. It's kind of like, it is sort of like that. I feel like sort of I did kind of cocoon myself for a while.
Out of necessity.
I needed the time. Yes. I mean, both from a physical, like I can't get sick sort of situation, but also I needed all of that. I couldn't handle what people were saying. I couldn't handle all of that. Like, I just needed to cocoon myself. But then, like what happens when you do that, you do kind of emerge somewhat different, right? And that was all. It was positive. I think it was good.
But then you have an option, or you have an opportunity to change again. Like, and that's still a change. Even if you go back to, let's just talk about the work. Let's say you've been off work because of treatment or something like that. A change can be going back, and you're not going back as the same human. You may be going back to the same job, but you're a different person.
Yeah.
And what could have been fulfilling before
might not be at all. Or things that, you used to, like, everything just would fly right over, you can't let fly. Like, that kind of stuff is different. But I also realized that even, like, I'm an occupational therapist, and I've worked a lot in the schools, but as I went back, I was like, I'm never working full-time again. Like, and people... I honestly, we've talked about this a little bit in terms of, I was giving up money that was on the table, but it was way more important to me to have the flexibility, and it was kind of just that commitment to myself,
And she was almost full time. I mean,
I care. Right.
90%. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Right. But even that, just like those little things, and I know some people are like, why wouldn't you just take the whole... No, because I wanted the days, or I wanted the flexibility, like, and also part
Your
of that
time
is
was
like
more valuable than the money.
Yeah,
No doubt.
I want to be able to say I know what's best for me, and now the more I've said that, the better I've gotten at it. Right?
Yeah, your actions.
Yeah, and the better received it's been. Right? Sure. I mean, so even like with this next year, what I've created for a job situation is ideal for me, and it's just been the stepping stones of finally kind of going, okay, I needed to remove myself from the situation I was in, and two, now I've also been able to gain kind of a confidence in, the more I stay true to who I am, the more I find the situations that are right for me.
So you've made this decision on kind of a big change for you.
Yeah.
A while back. Yeah. But it's starting now.
Yeah.
It's officially kind of starting now. Is there anxiety about this, or relief, or both, or...
Well, I think there's...
excitement?
It's all of that.
Because change can cause that.
I think it's... there's not a lot of anxiety for the job that I'm going to be doing. I feel like I can go and do it well, and then come back. And I feel like I have the communication I need to be able to kind of keep, my finger on something enough so that hopefully they'll feel that I'm supportive enough,
Okay. Yeah.
The anxiety comes from like everything else. Like oh my gosh, how do I build what comes next? And even kind of what comes first and second and third and
Is it anxiety or excitement?
It's both.
Okay.
But it's also like for me it's literally every day I am like, okay, I need to do something I've never done before. Here we go. Like I know YouTube,
Anxiety. Right
YouTube here. And Google will be my friend, right? And some of it will be better than others, and part of it I've been saying to myself like, done is better than perfect. There's some things that I won't give on, but there's other things that's like, no, I'm going to put that version of myself out there right now, and it will get better. But what has concerned me in the past, what I think this is just my own thing, is that I've held myself back from saying, well, this isn't done yet. No, it just needs to go out. Like things need to go out. They will get better. But rather than that being a barrier for me, I just need to get things done, and they will get better.
So the big change and especially for our metastatic cancer listeners that have been dealing for a while is change in treatment. And it's a big anxiety thing, I think, for a lot of people. I don't think there's a lot of excitement in this one.
No.
Where there's excitement in other changes. With this one, it almost takes you back, I think, to when you were doing intensive treatment, if that was part of your regimen in the beginning.
Yeah, any change in treatment is very anxiety inducing, because you have figured out kind of what your norm is, even if it sucks, right? Even if you're going to be puking 2 days or whatever. So whenever something comes about from a treatment standpoint that changes, it is like, what's this going to do? How's it going to feel? How long is it going to last? Like, all of these things, you know what I mean? Will this be the right one? All of that is really difficult, I think. And again, as humans, we tend to ask somebody, oh, have you done this? How did it go for you? Well, what if I hate it? What if I hated it, have done it and hated it? Like you're getting that perspective.
It's because we do that for everything else, right?
Yes. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's how we kind of, get through life is, well, ask somebody. I feel like maybe I should say this, I tend to trust other people more than myself. And that's one thing that I've gotten a lot better at lately is like, no, I'm trusting me.
Yeah, but with treatment changes, there was a reason for it.
Yeah.
100% of the time, I think.
Yeah.
There was a reason, or else there would not have been a treatment change. So there's a number of different things that could have spurred on that treatment change. It could have been the drug itself and what they're learning about it. It can be progression.
Yeah.
It can be side effects that you're dealing with.
Yep.
All of these things, it doesn't matter, I don't think. Even all of those things, you're still making a change in treatment. I don't think you're ever relieved to do that, because I think a lot of people in your shoes, you bought into what that treatment was doing.
Yeah.
And now you got to undo that in your head, don't you?
You do. Yeah. I mean, in a different way, right? So this is, I think when you're going to the next treatment, you just got to buy into the next one.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Now, in my situation, with what I'm considering, which is possibly stopping treatment, what are you buying into then?
That's
right?
scary.
And am I borrowing trouble? Can I handle the anxiety of not being on treatment? Like, all of these things are questions that, I've been thinking about already.
Well, it's been talked about
in the
by
past.
our oncologist.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. It's not like I'm going in there saying, this is what I want.
No.
It will be a thoughtful discussion, and it has been brought up in the past. But it is
And it's turned into, let's just not talk about that right now. It's kind of like it's been brought up, and it's okay. Next thing.
It's been baby stepped, right? And there have been for various reasons, and I understand all of them. I am more in a place mentally than I ever have been ready. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I think you should talk about this a little bit. The idea of having metastatic cancer is you have cancer for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You do. You have cancer for the rest of your life. That's being discussed on the highest levels with you. That might not be true.
Yeah.
Which is scary as shit.
Well, I think what's scary as shit is, is it really stupid to stop taking a drug that is very easy for me to tolerate? Just because there's been nothing for so long.
And your oncologist is saying, I have no evidence you have cancer.
Right.
Whereas in all metastatic cancer, you guys know as soon as it's progressed to other spots in the body, you have that
right
for life, for your life. And she's saying, this lady is one of the leading oncologists in the world. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
She's really second guessing.
And also we've talked about this in a recent podcast where when we've biopsied my bones, because I've always, it's only, my Mets were all in my bones in many spots. We haven't found cancer. So it does, it's
and everybody
crazy.
knows that's the only way you can know. You can't have any scan because
it
growing bone and
shows
cancerous bone is going to be the same.
Yeah. So it is that question of it's not that I don't know how to say it even, we're not making a rash decision by any means. It's just, it's not been a question for enough people.
No,
know?
you're a pioneer with this one, and that's scary too.
Yeah. So.
Because you were not a pioneer when you were diagnosed with cancer, even at age 26, being young, stage 4 cancer. There had been many others before you.
Absolutely.
So,
and many.
You're a pioneer because of this being.
Because of the longevity.
Yes.
Yes.
And as a scientist, you do have to look at evidence.
Right.
And when the evidence piles up, I think our oncologists felt some sort of not mandate, but a little bit that she had to share that with us.
Yes.
I feel like that's the truth, and not that maybe she wanted to change anything or what, but I couldn't believe when it came out of her mouth that is true. You may not have cancer, even though everybody says you have it for life. I have no evidence of that.
Yeah.
And haven't had a lot of evidence of that in a lot of years. So
it's a huge change also from an identity standpoint, right? So that's where I think also why I have backed off of survivor, thriver, all of those kind of words. That's not who I am necessarily. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm somebody who lives with a metastatic diagnosis. Maybe I don't know what it is, but and it doesn't matter, but just, I don't need to be able to define myself completely. No,
and you certainly don't want anybody else to define you.
For sure.
That's not how it works.
Yeah. So, we'll see what comes. That's September will be my appointments, so my scans and my meeting, and we'll let you know how that goes. But we are so close to 200, you guys. 200 episodes. Holy smokes.
Getting out of the summer routine and getting back into the fall as far as podcasts go too.
Yep. So there are going to be a few changes for fall. The I'm Still Here podcast will continue on Wednesdays, once a week. I'm going to add a new podcast. I'm going to talk about that more on Mondays. That's going to look a little different. We're excited about it though. So I think after this podcast, we're going to do hopefully like a mashup of some of our favorite greatest hits for you. And then we'll come back the following week and introduce kind of
Big
fall.
200.
Yeah. So we're excited about all that, and just so thankful that you guys have been.
That you are bored enough to listen to us. Wow.
I listen to some crazy stuff too. I'm just saying.
No, seriously, it's cool.
We appreciate it,
Yeah.
and the more you can share it and tell your friends and just get it out there for us, it's helpful. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the more we can help, right? So, all right. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see ya.